Dr. O, every Monday in the Center Square and across the Center Square Newswire, you share your insights on the economy and look ahead at the coming week. This prognostication has been somewhat interrupted or interfered by the flow of government data.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Chris, we stick to the facts on the podcast. And so we're kind of flying blind without official data. We do have private sector data that's usually helpful. We do have the Federal Reserve beige book that came out. That's also helpful. And so we got a decent look, but of course, nothing can replace the official data.
Right. Your crystal ball is a little bit murky, but I mean, you still have some insight. So we got a couple of things on the books next week. It's actually a very light week on the economic calendar, right? You know, the Conference Board releases, a monthly U.S. leading economic indicators report. We are going to get some existing home sale data next week. And at the end of the week, we're going to get the entire battery, supposedly. I mean, if they are able to stay on schedule with this, the entire battery of CPI information. So CPI year over year, core CPI from the month of September et al. But we're not certain that we're going to be getting that. Even the Conference Board has said that that its report, which is steady and consistent, it comes out every month, may be delayed. So amid the tea leaves that you have at your disposal that do provide some kind of meaningful facts, what are you looking at next week?
I'm looking for kind of let's break it down with Econ 101. Supply and demand. Let's break it down. So I'm looking towards a slowdown in consumer spending that will actually kind of mitigate some of the pressure on prices that we're getting from the tariffs. And so yeah, I think, and you have even, the newly elected, Fed governor, who, newly appointed, not elected, appointed by the president, Fed governor talking to CNBC this week and saying, look, saying basically, look, the trade tensions with China are actually are another reason why it's important to cut interest rates, right? And I think it's important that to note here that even he realizes that the trade tensions with China are actually going to hurt the U.S. economy, the U.S. consumer, and the U.S. economy as a whole.
Yeah, that's Stephen Myron you're speaking.
That's right, Stephen Myron. Stephen Myron's in his speech this week actually acknowledged that the impasse in trade talks between the U.S. and China poses new dangers to the economic outlook, essentially slowing economic growth in the.
It's a little chilly there. The economic relationship between the U.S. and China, and I mean, if you have invested any time in reading, about just sort of international affairs. It's not something the Center Square focuses on, but if you take your reading outside of certainly of the work that we do, it sounds like things that are happening inside of China, are somewhat fluid. I mean, President Xi has made some significant upper level staffing changes, on defense and on the economy. And there are real concerns about what's going on with the economy inside of China right now.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend to pay attention too much to what's going on in China, but I can tell you that the trade war is not good for U.S. economic growth. We know what happened in 2018. What happened, right? Consumers faced higher prices. Consumers bought fewer imports. And it's not even clear that U.S. consumers switched to U.S. made goods. In fact, the result is the tariffs actually hurt employment, in 2018. And so the research is there to show that, these trade wars don't work out very well. They don't actually benefit U.S. manufacturing or agriculture. In fact, agriculture tends to suffer to some extent because of the retaliation from these other countries. We're seeing it already, even now, with the farmers in the United States. And so, not good. And, for the economy. And so I expect future inflation prints to kind of reflect that. Yes, you have some upward pressure, on prices, but the fact that demand is slowing could actually mitigate some of that upward pressure. At the same time, you have the fact that housing, which makes up the largest share of core inflation, is still on the way down. Rent growth continues to ease. If you look at forecasts for rents, they're going down into 2026. And so again, that's also going to have kind of exert downward pressure on core inflation moving forward.
How are you going to do your estimate? I mean, in terms of, and I mean, I should say analysis. I mean, you're not doing the actual, math, behind CPI. CPI number, like I said, is scheduled to be delivered, on Friday, October 24th, a week from today, as we're taping this. But how will you do your analysis once you have access to that information?
And the first thing is we don't necessarily need to have the latest CPI to forecast where the shelter component of CPI is headed, because we know that it tends to lag asking rents. And so using asking rents from Zillow, it's very easy to forecast where rent of primary residence and owner equivalent rents in the CPI are headed, and they're headed lower. And CPI makes up something like 42% of core inflation. Rent makes up something like 40 to 42% of core inflation. So it's very easy for me to kind of forecast where the rent components of CPI are headed. And so that's the easy part. The rest is going to be a little bit more challenging, but I expect CPI to see, I don't expect to see a big increase in inflation. And we really haven't seen much of it yet, right? So we know that it's been on the rise, that it was rising, but again, I really don't think that rise in prices is going to be sustained for all the reasons that I highlighted.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your thoughts as always. And, the task at hand for you and other economists is, increasingly more challenging as, data becomes, less frequently delivered and, perhaps not, as complete as it once was. We'll call it good there. We've got a couple other things we want to talk about today, and we'll be back with more Everyday Economics in a moment. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure that you listen to Orphe and me each week on the Center Square Radio Hour.